my 2024 NFL team tier list predictions after week 7. Starting off with the Cardinals, they're mid. I mean, they have Marvin Harrison Jr., but Kyler Murray's not that good. Jonathan Cannon's not a good coach. Cardinals need to fire him unless they need to be really good again. Falcons, wild card. Excuse me. Falcons are a wild card team. They lost to the Seahawks today, but still they're a wild card team. They're not the best team in the world, but they're pretty good. But a wild card team. Ravens are a playoff team. I would not say they're Super Bowl contenders yet because they have to prove me otherwise. Ravens won 4 straight games. Derrick Henry's looking like a beast. Lamar Jackson's doing his thing. And yeah. Bills, playoff team. They destroyed the Titans today. Bills they won like 3 straight games or something like that. They destroyed the Titans today. 34-10. Josh Allen, surprisingly, hasn't thrown an interception this season. Good for him. He's doing this without Stephon Diggs, and he's doing it with Amari Cooper. Panthers, just tank for a team. Just tank. They're shit. Just get rid of Bryce Young. Bryce Young ain't it. The Bears, they're a wild card team. They're surprising me this season. Caleb Williams has really turned it on from struggling in the beginning of the season and now really turning it on in the middle of the season. Caleb Williams is looking really good now. He really improved. Caleb Williams really improved. The Bears overall are looking decent. They are 4-2 on the year, I believe. Yeah, 4-2. Bears play the Commanders next week. So that's going to be interesting. Bengals fan here. As a Bengals fan, I think we're a wild card team at best. I know we won 2 straight games, but our defense letting us down a lot. Offense is looking decent. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and those guys are looking decent. I mean, the running game's doing all right with Chase Brown, but I kind of wish we had Joe Mixon still because Chase Brown isn't better than Joe Mixon. Next up, the Browns. Tank. Just tank. Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles today against the Bengals, so yeah. Browns are tanking for sure. Cowboys, mid. Cowboys got their asses kicked by the Lions. Dak Prescott in it. Mike McCarthy has to go. Broncos, I think they're mid still. Broncos destroyed a terrible Saints team, so yeah. Lions, they're definitely Super Bowl contenders. They beat the Vikings, who are a decent team. The Vikings are proved a lot. Lions are number 1 in the division. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and those guys are looking fantastic on offense. Lions defense is still looking decent, even though they lost Aiden Hutchinson for the season. So yeah, Dan Campbell is my favorite head coach in the NFL. As a Bengals fan, I'm saying that. Dan Campbell I love Dan Campbell. He's a freaking legend. Next up, the Packers. They're a playoff team. They defeat the Texans today on the game-winning field goal. Jordan Love's looking decent. Packers defense improved from last season. Romeo Doubs and those guys. The young Packers core, wide receiver core is looking decent enough. Josh Jacobs is looking good too. The Texans, I want to put them on Super Bowl contenders, but I have to put them in a playoff team because the offensive line's not looking too good. The Texans lost to the Packers today. Texans got ass kicked by Vikings earlier in the season, so yeah. Next up, the Colts. They're mid. they're not very good. Anthony Richardson's not very good. Joe Flacco. Jaguars tank, even though they won today in London. Just tank. Doug Peterson needs to be fired. I hate this team so much, the Chiefs, but they're Super Bowl contenders. They're 6-0. Defeated the 49ers today, 28-18. Mahomes not throwing a touchdown pass today, throwing 2 picks, but they still fucking won the game. This team finds a way to win because the coaching staff's so good. As a Bengals fan, I hate the Chiefs so much, but their coaching staff is for real. The defense is good. The Chiefs are. The Lions and the Chiefs are Super Bowl contenders without doubt. Next up, I think let's compare the Texans and the Chiefs really quick. They're both good teams, but the Chiefs are better right now. The Texans lost today to the Packers. So yeah. Next up, Chargers. I think they have a chance to make the wild card. Jim Harbaugh's looking fantastic in his first year. Herbert looking all right. Defense improved. So yeah. Rams. They're mid. They defeated a terrible Raiders team. I guess speaking of Raiders, are next. The Rams, don't have Cooper Kupp still. Matthew Stafford's looking a little washed. So yeah. Raiders, just tank for the number 1 pick in the draft. Just get it. Yeah, let's talk about the Raiders here. The Raiders need to do these things. Draft a quarterback in the draft. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are not QB1s at all. They're not franchise quarterbacks. Number 2, fire Antonio Pierce and hire Ben Johnson from the Lions. Ben Johnson needs to replace Antonio Pierce, and the Raiders, number 3, needed to fire Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy's he's a terrible offensive coordinator. He needs to be fired. Next up, the Dolphins. They're mid, even though they're not without Tua Tagovailoa. Turn the Balava, aka Tua the Bala. Dolphins are mid. They're not making the playoffs this season. They lost to the terrible Colts team. They're basically injured. Next up, the Vikings. I have to put them ahead of the Texans because they beat the Texans, even though the Vikings lost today too. I think who's better than the Vikings? The Detroit Lions. The Lions are better than the Vikings. So yeah, Lions are better than the Vikings and Texans. So yeah, let's get over that. Texans. I know the Texans played the Lions later in the season. I think the Lions beat the Texans, to be honest with you. Lions have too much talent. Next up, the Patriots. They're one of the teams that can make the Tank Bowl. They can tank too. The Patriots are absolutely terrible. Next up, the Saints. They are so mid. After that 2-0 start at the beginning of the season, they have fallen off completely. The Saints have fallen off. The Saints need to do this. Fire Dennis Allen. Fire Dennis Allen. Next up, Dennis Allen's he's a terrible coach. He was with the Raiders a decade ago. He got fired immediately. Next up, the Giants, they're mid. Daniel Jones is not QB1. He's not their franchise quarterback. He is absolutely terrible. I'm subscribed to Giants fans. Bad Dog Sports and Entertainer Talking Sports. I don't like the Giants, but they're very good. They're one of my favorite NFL commentators. They're really good. I like them. Next up, this is going to be interesting. The New York Jets. They are mid. They got their ass kicked today by the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers blames the media today. They got Devontae Adams in trade. So, yeah. Jets are the same old Jets. Next up, the Eagles. I think they're a wild card team. Even though Nick Sirianni's not a good coach, they still have Jalen Hurts who can score on the 1 yard line every time. Yeah, they have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, and those guys. So yeah. Next up, the Steelers. Do I want to put them in the playoff team or the wild card team? I gotta put them in the wild card team. I can't say right now that they're playoff team yet. They have to prove me otherwise. They are a playoff team or not. Even though they play a not so good Jets team tonight, they're not very. I don't think they're that good yet. They started Russell Wilson today, who in my opinion should be quarterback 1 over Fields. Next up, the Seahawks. I think they're still mid. The Seahawks falling apart so much, even though they beat the Falcons tonight, or today or yesterday, whatever. The Seahawks are not very good. Next up, the Niners. I think they're still a wild card team, but they have fallen off a cliff. All the injuries and all the chaos. Next up, the Bucks. They're a playoff team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield's baking. Mike Evans is cooking. Chris Godwin's a beast. And their running game's alright, but not the best in the world. They still have Todd Bowles as their head coach. I don't think he's a very good coach. So yeah. I think they're still a playoff team, but they still have a terrible head coach. Next up, the Titans. They are mid. They got their asses kicked by the Bills tonight. Next up, the Commanders. They are a playoff team for sure. Jaden Daniels is looking fantastic this season. So yeah, that's my list, guys. Right here. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.